So philosophically, there is a problem, or it's a phenomenon that's called basically infinite regress, where you're caught in a loop basically. So okay, where does a tree come from? Um, well, it comes from the seed, right? But where does the seed come from? So like a oak tree, where does it come from? An acorn. Where does the acorn come from? The oak tree. Where does the oak tree come from? The acorn. Where does the acorn come from? We know this as the chicken and egg debate. It's the issue of the infinite regress. Now, this same issue or debate comes up with regards to humans, people, and the different races of people, even. Because with Darwinian evolution, I mean, with flat Earth, you're pretty much debunking Darwinian evolution in its essential sense. But not necessarily, though, because, his observations were made within nature anyway. So it really didn't matter, or it doesn't matter in that sense. And the Big Bang Theory wasn't even thought of. Um, so in a sense, actually, you don't necessarily have to debunk Darwinian evolution with flat Earth, which a lot of Darwinists or atheists, these Darwinian atheists, will probably see flat Earth as a threat to that for some reason. But if you think about it, not necessarily. Because with the progenitor molecule, you can still have this process taking place, of course, on a flat Earth. Because, well, hell, his observations were done on a flat Earth any fucking way, right? But so I'm not gonna act like this flat Earth just automatically puts a shotgun through Darwin's fucking whole assessment and conjectures. But flat Earth does get you to question everything at a deeper level, and it gets you to re-question this reality and how it's constructed. It does seem more. I mean, like I said, it was always mysterious, but I guess it's a different way of being mysterious. It seems more up close and personal. Flat Earth, when you know that the sun as well, it's right there, about what 3,000 miles high. The stars are actually stars in the firmament. That to me is really dramatic to realize that. Like I said, most people didn't probably know that they were suns, but at least somewhere in your mind you thought they were far away, but they're not that far away, and they're actually stars. So it gives you, like I said, it's a more up close and personal feeling. It feels more real when you really contemplate the flat Earth thing, the in real time, like as you're standing outside. But this didn't necessarily debunk Darwinism. I'm not gonna say that, but because I bring this up because this infinite regress issue is always a problem philosophically. Now, even some of these the ancient Sanskrit yogis, they would say, do not try to figure out a first point because the we're always going to be stuck in infinite regress when it comes to like plants and animals, because Darwin tried to solve this, but it's comical. Again, it's easy to debunk Darwinism just based off the fact that you've never seen a species evolve into another species of its own accord. You never seen a monkey give birth to a bird, or a fish give birth to a bird. You've never seen a fish slowly transform into a bird throughout its lifetime, even start to get wings, unless unless they did some GMO, genetic modification. But you've never seen this. Those are two real world practical instances that would have to take place in order for Darwinian evolution to be true. Since those have never taken place, then it's not true. It's just a conjecture based off of observations and blurring the lines, basically, to make it work. But it's comical. Um, so that angle, of course, and along with some of the research that's been done, especially with like I said, there's Christian scientists who make good points. There's Eric Dubé's video. He pretty much went in on all the evidence, how it's just fabricated. So they forced it to make sense. So who knows if they really believe it. But regardless of the fact that, because we do have similarities between the different species, like, yes, rabbits look like deers. But that doesn't mean that rabbits or deers evolved from rabbits, or rabbits devolved from deers, or whatever. Or, like you could say a rabbit, or you could say a rabbit is a small kangaroo, but then I was going to say you could say a rabbit and a deer, you know, can make a kangaroo. But that's interbreeding, just speculating, just saying. But that's not really taking place. With evolution, with saying that every, this species actually morphed or transformed in the middle of its life. Because, see, the God of evolution, the Jesus of evolution, the holy cross of evolution is over time. So, again, the holy cross of evolution, the Jesus, the God in the sky that no one can prove of evolution, is over time. That's the phrase. Oh yeah, well, how'd it happen? Over time. It's like that's their religion. So, they're still caught in their religion too. They won't admit it. Everybody has a certain faith. Just be honest. Everybody has a certain faith when it comes to things that they can't prove. Um, so even they have a religion, so an exoteric religion. That's absurd. Over time, that's it, really, over time. But we never see this. Again, we've never seen this. Ever. So Darwinian evolution is sort of just off of that alone, in my opinion, it stays in the realm of theory, conjecture, and with flat Earth, and basically with if you erase that even being a possibility, you're still left with it being mysterious, the origin, because again, as the yogis would say, these ancient yogis would say, don't try to speculate a first point; it will drive you crazy. Darwin tried, and it's comical. So and he probably went crazy too, but it's comical. Huge book, but again, the fill in the gaps over time. That's pretty much what it is. I mean, you can go into all the details, but that's pretty much their whole religion, which is this phrase of over time. But you're stuck with infinite regress. So, because the guy asked me about the soul video, he said, where did the 100 people come from? Well, they came from their parents. He said, well, where did, because he was talking about the souls. Well, where did the souls come from? Like, well, see, there you go again. That false premise of there being extra corporeal, extra personal souls, or actually personal souls, apart from the persons we meet every day as persons we know as human beings, basically. We know them as persons. You don't want to go so far as to say they are just the body as we perceive it. You know, I'm not saying that, but you are dealing with human personas who manifest in human bodies. So, you got to be practical about that. So, where did they come from? They came from their parents. Where did their parents come from? They came from their parents. Well, where did this first class of human come from, or whatever? Kangaroo or deer, where did it come from? Well, that's what you can't intellectually know. You just can't know it. So, see, that's where it gets, and people hate that, or somebody who really thinks a lot hates that. But one wise thing, like I said, they say is don't try to speculate that first point. You don't necessarily have to, in a certain sense, for all intents and purposes, to be practical, to get a practical understanding, because we can't observe nature in real time and we can fathom how it functions. I mean, it's observable, it's provable, it's repeatable. Just based off like a farmer, we know how this works. We plant the seeds, we water, we feed the seeds, they grow. Um, so we know it comes from a seed. We know there must be some type of template, some, you can call it DNA, the genetic code or whatever. Like I said, these ideas and the logic within the idea that manifest as, say, a tree. Well, that's what it is. We understand from that perspective. But again, we're still caught in the infinite regress. But the infinite regress is enough to draw enough conclusions to know that, well, in of itself, this is a metaphysically founded process. Beyond the apparent, the perception, basically, ultimately, beyond the perception, the inner nature of what we perceive. And how do we know there is a metaphysical component to reality? Because again, we are metaphysical. We have thoughts and feelings and emotions that you can't see. You can't. We can feel them. And now, so these scientific hardcore materialist atheists would say like happiness is a release of neurotransmitters like serotonin. So they'll say, "Oh, yeah, you're laughing at that movie because you release serotonin." But what they don't realize, and how absurd it is to say that, is that, hold up, well, the scene made me laugh, not the serotonin. The serotonin didn't come before the scene. So what triggered the release of serotonin, and where did this serotonin come from? It couldn't have come from out of my brain. I don't have an infinite supply of my serotonin in my brain right now. So where does it come from? Like, how does it manifest as serotonin? It obviously comes from, conventionally speaking, something outside of time and space. It comes from you could say the idea. Even these emotions have ideas to correspond to them. So when you see a funny movie scene, it provokes that in the metaphysical aspect, and physically it manifests as a serotonin release. Again, you can't blame the emotions on chemical release. Like, even if you hug someone or even fuck somebody, the chemicals released as a result of the interaction, the metaphysical interaction. Then they released. They didn't release and cause this. Um, and any serious thinker will have to just admit that. Apparently, there's a big gap in their theory anyway. And since these same scientists are Darwinians, that's double the comedy from them. It's all comedy. All their answers are comedy because they shy away from the metaphysic. It's a shallow way of looking at existence. Not to mention the fact that they don't consider any ethics at all when it comes to nature. They study nature all day, but they act like this is just the coolest, acceptable slaughterhouse Hunger Games to ever be in. So, and that's their third rim shot. It's comedy when it comes to really getting philosophical and deep about this existence, especially on the flat Earth. That stuff has got to go. So yeah, that scientism stuff is really ignorant. It's really shallow and ignorant. So because there is a metaphysical aspect, is what I'm getting at with the chemical release example. So clearly there's metaphysics behind this. So we know that there is something deeper to this reality. This, along with our lives, along with the fact that people just end up basically going kaput. I mean, and we don't know what happens. Basically, we are perplexed about that death, which we call it. Then that also prompts this need for metaphysics. So you get this with in our day and age with most of the population. You'll have religion. Religion is basically the metaphysics for the common people because everyone has questions about this existence. Well, how did it get here? Animals can't do this, but the human mind does this. So you get into superstition / religion. Religion is an advanced form of superstition. Um, it is. It's not as a. It's not as well. Well, actually, it's the same thing. Well, it's a superstition. But like I said, you have philosophy. Now, I said philosophy is once removed. Now, the truth, the deepest truth is you don't use words. I mean, that's when you get into, like I mentioned, those old practices of embryonic breathing, non-being, the practice of non-being. And actually, when you come back from those states, you get more insight. And then you get into philosophy, which is once removed. Then, like I said, theology, then religion. But you can put mythology in there too. I would say philosophy, um, mythology, theology, religion. So religion is going to be for the mass public because the average person is not really a thinker. So they have to believe something. They have to be given something to believe. So when this is put into them at such an early age and by the culture and the parents, they're going to believe it as such regardless because they've grown up with their brain has grown into this belief. For those who didn't repel it or have questions. But over half of the population, they do accept these beliefs because again, the need for metaphysics along with these inculcated answers, these fantastical notions, which may serve or have a kernel of metaphysical truth in them, they're clothed in this garb of absurdity, and it's actually counterproductive, as we can see. I mean, ultimately, in my opinion, it's counterproductive. So, but there's this need for metaphysics, though. So you gotta have something, right? So ultimately, when you get to flat Earth again, when you get to these Christians, because the Christians are loving this flat Earth thing, like they're going off, um, because they will say, well, this proves that there's a God, and I go into this what this God thing means. or what do you mean when you say God? I mean, I go into it over and over again. I feel like talking about it right now. Point is, suffice to say, no, there's no big hand in the sky, if that's what they mean, or even a big head in the sky who would take out time out of his day to just talk to you. No, that doesn't prove. Flat Earth does not prove. It just proves that we're in this flat realm, and it's yeah, of course, it's mystical. It's mysterious as hell. But when you get to things on that level, you're not dealing with embodiment, finiteness. You're definitely dealing with intelligence, but not necessarily what we would know as intelligence. Not intellect bound by time. So metaphysics does come into play once more again, as it always has been, but even more so with flat Earth. Um, that has to be established. So I go into the whole soul thing just on another angle to because like I said, somebody asked me about flat Earth. He said, "Well, oh, so you're saying we're on a flat Earth?" And he's sort of a dark epiphany. He said, "Well, damn, if we're enclosed on a flat Earth, then that means we're just gonna die and that's it." He had an existential crisis because with space, of course, everything is opened up. There's hope. Maybe some aliens will come save everybody or whatever, or we'll go out in space, or these these transhumanist type people, or whatever, go to another planet or whatever. There's hope. You can have this hope, and humans love hope because the human mind, the human emotional mind, at its peak is passionate idealism. So it's really delusion, but that's the human mind, the passionate idealism, all that hope. But when you come to a flat Earth that's enclosed, I mean, you're pretty much this is pretty much it. So, which it always was anyway. Really, you just didn't think it was. So it does, cause an existential shakeup, crisis. That's what flat Earth is, an existential crisis. Um, for a lot of people. But of course, the people who are grounded in Christianity, they just, oh, this confirms it. And and I think it's slowly spreading because okay, we got the Christian world, Islam, Muslim, and the Judeo-Abrahamic religions, and even into the East. I mean, with the Buddhists, I talked to a few Buddhists about flat Earth, so they're actually coming to it too. And because of course, all the ancient everything is a flat Earth except for the past pretty much the past 500 years. I think there was one instance that's mentioned in the Islamic world where there was some astronomer or whatever who thought that Earth was a sphere. That's how it's told. But apart from that, there's nothing really documented. The Greeks, for the most part, were flat earthers. So I don't know. I heard some guys try to act like they weren't. like I said, no, they were flat earthers. The Egyptians were flat earthers. Earth is flat, damn it. Every indigenous tribe, nomadic tribe, any group in the state of nature, I guarantee you they're flat earthers, but we just won't know because they won't ask that question. They just take it for granted, like everybody else, that, you know, they must assume we live on a ball too. Or they probably, the people who go travel over there, they probably do assume that, oh, they probably think the earth is flat. Oh, these people are so stupid, so he doesn't ask them, but I'm sure they're flat earthers too. So, um, I mean, it's still the same world. It's like people say, some people, oh, who gives a damn? It doesn't matter. Or flat or sphere, we still gotta live life, every day. So nothing's gonna change. How is that gonna change things? Blah blah blah. But and there's truth in that. But I mean, it still goes into what you believe, and a lot of people would die for their beliefs. So to say it doesn't matter, that's a stretch. I think that's just pushback from having an existential crisis. I mean, it's one thing, to say, oh, I think Pepsi tastes better than Coke, or I mean, but it's a whole nother thing to realize that you're on a flat world. That's level. That's come on, you have to really really ponder that. So I think so. Metaphysics is needed in our lives, definitely. Especially the more you go up the intellectual thought ladder of human mentality, metaphysics, philosophy is needed. But like I said, philosophy is the brain of religion.